The Millionaire and the Black Homeless Man, a story of unexpected friendship. Gustavo Morgan, billionaire playboy with a smile that never quite reached his eyes, had a world built on gold-plated lies. His penthouse, gleaming cars, and endless parties. Nothing filled the cold pit inside. Until one fateful night, the storm hit like a beast unleashed. Thunder clapped so hard it shook every bone in his body as rain battered the city's slick streets. Lights flickered and then vanished. Gustavo gripped the steering wheel, heart thundering, eyes desperate to find a path through the chaos. Suddenly, a blinding flash, a skid, and then metal twisting on itself. The car slammed into the curb with a crushing crack. Pain exploded across Gustavo's face and chest. Breathing came ragged, every breath a knife. His world blurred into shadows and screams. And in that terrifying moment, as darkness clawed at his fading senses, a figure appeared, like a ghost from the gutter, silent and swift. Laura. A girl with eyes sharp as broken glass and skin dark as the stormy night. Hair tangled, clothes torn, but hands steady and sure. She ripped open Gustavo's door with a strength born from raw survival. Her voice was rough, urgent. "Hold on, I got you." Around them, the world dissolved into rain and sirens. He could hear murmurs from the sidewalk, strangers watching, whispering about the rich man saved by the black homeless girl nobody saw coming. The shock on their faces mixed with something more, something alive. Hunger? Distrust? Awe? Gustavo's chest tightened as Laura pulled him free. His body trembled, not just from pain, but from something deeper, a crack forming in the shiny, perfect prison he built. She vanished almost as fast as she came, slipping back into the shadows like a secret no one could catch. In the days that followed, Gustavo's mind was a storm of unanswered questions and aching gratitude. Who was Lara? How could someone so lost, so invisible, save him? And why did she disappear like a ghost, leaving behind only the faint smell of rain and smoke? His search began, a desperate plunge into the underground world he'd always ignored. Alleys stinking of decay, faces hollowed by hunger, eyes full of wary silence. The city's underbelly clawed at him, exposing his vulnerabilities, shattering the hollow mask of his life. When he finally found her, a refuge down a cracked street corner, the sight stunned him. Lara, colder than stone, guarded by scars no one spoke of. Her distrust was a wall, but the stakes sharpened when the courtroom battle began. A war over Lara's fate unfolded under harsh lights and biting words. In those tense hours, dark family secrets spilled like poison, entangling Gustavo's past with Lara's present. Secrets so deep, they might shatter them both. Saving Lara wasn't just about heroics anymore. It was a gamble. A fight that would demand more than money or power. It asked for something Gustavo had lost long ago. His heart. The question trembled between them. Could this fragile bond survive the ruthless divide of their worlds? Or would the truth tear them apart forever? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, where? Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The tension hung heavy in the courtroom, the air thick with whispered judgments and sidelong glances. Lara stood at the center, her defiance radiating like a beacon amidst the suits and ties that buzzed with disdain. Gustavo's heart ached as he watched from the back, knowing the world he was from was poised to crush her, even as he fought for her. But she was a fighter. He could see it in her clenched fists and fierce glare. As a lawyer's voice cut through the air, demanding Lara's removal from her makeshift home, a sudden commotion erupted. Gasps echoed, a ripple of shock spreading like wildfire. The double doors of the courtroom swung open, banging against the wall with a vicious force. A man stumbled inside, breathless, wild-eyed. "Stop!" he shouted. Everyone turned, confusion mixed with curiosity. It was Marcus, the official from the homeless outreach program Gustavo had contacted. The very man tasked with protecting those like Lara. Sweat glistened on his brow, and his voice trembled. "You need to hear this." "What is it?" the judge barked, annoyance thick in his tone. "Lara, she's not who you think she is," Marcus gasped, staggering toward the front. The silence was a balloon, ready to pop. Lara's face shifted from defiance to fear. Her eyes flicked to Gustavo, questions radiating silently between them. "What did he mean?" "She's not just a homeless girl," Marcus continued, panting. But before he could finish, an officer surged forward and grabbed him by the arm, asking him to leave. "You're out of order." "Wait!" Gustavo shouted, desperation clawing at him. "Let him speak!" The room wavered. The judge's gavel slammed down in an effort to restore control, but chaos broke loose. Murmurs erupted, eyes shifted, and everyone leaned forward, anxious to uncover the truth. Marcus struggled, and in that moment, a brief flash of recognition flickered across Lara's face, something dark and heavy that twisted her features. She took a step back, not just away from Marcus, but from everyone, including Gustavo. "No!" she cried, her voice cracking. "Don't! I can't let this happen!" And as the crowd around them surged with questions, Gustavo felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The weight of her secret hung in the air like a loaded gun. Suddenly, the room descended into complete chaos. There was a sharp bang, a sound that splintered the tension. A gunshot! Gustavo's breath caught in his throat. People screamed, ducking for cover. He turned just in time to see Marcus crumple to the ground, blood seeping onto the polished floor. The chaos intensified. Chaos engulfed them. Sirens screamed outside, and he could hardly focus on the horrors unraveling before him. But through it all, his eyes were fixed on Lara. Her expression was no longer one of fear. It was a mask of cold determination. "Get down!" she screamed, pushing through the crowd, rushing toward Marcus. The court erupted into madness, and Gustavo's heart raced. What had just happened? Who would dare shoot in a room filled with so many witnesses? No one had the answers. Not yet. As Lara knelt beside Marcus, they locked eyes, and in that moment, everything changed. Eager whispers filled the room, rising around him like storm clouds. From beneath the rubble of chaos, surfaced a truth darker than he'd ever imagined. Gustavo knew they were standing on the brink of something monumental, where friendship, secrets, and survival intertwined dangerously. Suddenly, their fragile bond felt infinitely weaker, and the stakes could not have been higher. What had Lara hidden? And could they survive the storm that was now brewing? All he could do was watch, heart pounding, as the true nature of their worlds began to unravel before his eyes. The chaos in the courtroom unfolded like a nightmare. Gustavo stood frozen, watching Lara kneel beside Marcus, fear tangling with his racing heart. But soon, a new sound cut through the madness. A soft whimper that danced across the room. Lara's eyes widened as she turned her gaze toward the back of the courtroom. She felt it before she saw it. The air shifted. Something electric sparked, a tension so thick you could slice it with a knife. A figure emerged from the shadows, stepping forward, and a gasp rippled through the crowd. "Stop!" a voice roared, deep and commanding. It was Manuel, Lara's estranged father. The man she had been running from for years, the very man she thought was dead. His presence was a jarring contrast to the turmoil around them. He stood tall, defiant, anger radiating from him in waves. "Get away from her!" Manuel shouted, eyes blazing with a ferocity that echoed off the courtroom walls. Gustavo felt his stomach drop. This was not how things were supposed to go. Panic spiraled around them, growing louder, drowning out thoughts of escape, of safety. The judgment that had held the crowd in place suddenly cracked under the weight of revelation. "Dad?" Lara barely breathed, the sound a croak, horror twisting into disbelief on her face. "Lara, you need to come with me." Manuel's voice softened, but behind it lay a jagged edge. "They're after you." "You don't understand. It's not safe here." The room wavered. What did he mean? Who was after her? As whispers ignited like wildfire, Lara's face morphed from fear to anger. "You left me! You don't get to come back and take me away! Your life is at stake." Manuel shot back, desperation creeping into his tone. "I made mistakes for you." Gustavo stared, trying to piece it all together. The shadows of the past wrapped around them like a cloak, thickening the air with dread. He could sense the silent questions rippling through the crowd. Who was this man? Why now? And why did it feel as if the ground had shifted beneath them? Suddenly, a gunshot rang out again, sharper than before, echoing with lethal intent. Time slowed. Gusts of fear sliced through him. Everyone ducked, scrambling for cover, as chaos turned the courtroom into a frenzy of human bodies. Lara's scream pierced through the noise. "Dad, no!" Gustavo saw it unfold, a blur of motion. Manuel falling, blood spreading out like dark ink against the polished floor. He caught a glimpse of horror etched on Lara's face, collapsing toward her father, a raw, wrenching cry escaping her throat. As he sprinted toward them, Gustavo felt something twist in his chest. Surely this couldn't be the truth. A dramatic crescendo of pain and heartbreak framing their fragile connection. Despairs wrapped around him, tightening like a noose. What kind of world was this? "Get down!" a police officer yelled, pushing him aside as panic consumed the room. Amid the clamor, Gustavo made it through, and as he knelt beside Lara and Manuel, something shifted. It was there, a flicker of recognition, a hidden message in the midst of carnage. In those last moments before everything blurred, Lara met his gaze, her eyes wild with truth and terror. "You don't understand, Gustavo," she gasped, voice trembling. "My whole life, it's a lie." And just as the world around them descended into darkness, her face illuminated with passion and fear. He felt the weight of decisions churning beneath the surface. Would this new revelation break them? Or would it bind them tighter into a storm he had never expected? The sirens wailed outside, and as the room spun, one thought echoed. Was this the end, or just the beginning of a truth that could shatter everything? A mystery loomed, heavy and unyielding, tilting the balance of their lives. The air hung thick with shock, echoing screams still ringing in his ears. As Gustavo knelt beside Lara and her father, he felt the weight of everything crashing down. The chaos and confusion blurred reality into a nightmare. Lara's face was a mix of heartbreak and fury. "Why did you come back?" she shouted at Manuel, her voice cracking, tears pushing their way through. Then silence fell briefly, like a breath held too long. But just as Gustavo reached for Lara's hand, trying to anchor them both, a shadow stirred at the back of the courtroom. It was small, shadowy, and swift. As it dove through the doorway, gasps erupted from the crowd. Everyone turned. Who was this now? In marched a figure cloaked in a dark coat, the kind that made the room feel colder just by being there. It was a woman, tall and fierce, her eyes glinting with a manic energy. She raised her hand, holding something slick, a knife. The blade glinted menacingly under the lights, drawing attention like a moth to a flame. "Enough!" she screamed, voice piercing through the chaos. "This ends now! You've all been played!" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers ignited in murmurs. Hearts raced in collective fear. Who was she? What did she know? "Step away from them!" A police officer barked, shoving through the chaos. But the woman laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "Don't you get it yet? Lara is not just a girl. She's worth more than all of you combined." The room tensed, eyes darting back to Lara, her expression shifting from fear to uncertainty. What do you mean?" she stammered, backing up slightly, eyes darting nervously. The woman smirked, the knife lowering just slightly. "Let me tell you a little secret about your past, Lara. You were never meant to be a nobody. They hid you away, kept you in the shadows, but it's time for the world to know the truth." "What truth?" Lara's voice echoed over the rising noise, her entire body quaking now. "I'm talking about the fortune that should have been yours, the family you're really from." The woman's words sliced through the air. "Your mother, she was a queen, and they stole everything from you." Gustavo felt the ground shift beneath him. A queen? What had he stumbled into? The courtroom's mood morphed with the weight of revelation. "No!" Manuel hollered in rage, suddenly on his feet, trembling with fury. You're lying! Get away from her! While the spectators gasped at the flaring emotions, the woman's eyes narrowed. Focusing intensely on Manuel. You think it's so simple, don't you? But you were the reason she was taken. You turned your back. And now, it's time for her to take back what's hers. Laura looked between the two, eyes wide, flaring with betrayal. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you save me? The fragility of her voice bounced between them, thick with unshed tears. But before anyone could respond, a loud bang erupted again. More sirens wailed outside, filling the room with an air of panic. The woman, without hesitation, lunged towards them. Gustavo's instincts kicked in. He sprang to shield Laura, pushing her behind him, heart hammering, adrenaline surging. But the woman didn't target them. She swung around, aiming the knife at a figure in the crowd, one of the lawyers, a cold smirk appearing on her lips. Time to unveil the truth. She's not just a girl. She's the reason they... Before she could finish, an officer tackled her. A whirlwind of uniforms, shouts, and chaos erupting again. Bodies collided, tumbling over each other. Amidst the turmoil, something clicked in Gustavo's mind. Secrets, lies, a legacy that could break or bind them. Would they uncover the truth that lay hidden in shadows, or would it consume them all? He turned to Laura, only to see a glimmer of something new in her eyes. Determination mingled with fear. "We'll find out together," she whispered, her voice steady against the backdrop of screams. And just like that, they stood on a precipice, teetering between destruction and a life rewritten. Could friendship born in darkness survive the light? The air buzzed with tension as chaos enveloped the courtroom. Gustavo could barely hear the screams and shouts around him. He kept his eyes locked on Laura, her expression a mix of fear and determination. They were standing at the cusp of something monumental. Suddenly, Manuel staggered, clutching his side where blood seeped through his fingers. "Laura, listen to me!" he gasped, his voice strained. "You have to trust me! They're after more than just you!" "What are you talking about?" Laura shouted, her hands shaking. "You've lied to me my whole life!" Gustavo didn't know what to believe anymore. He felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Then the woman with the knife took a step forward, eyes glimmering with something sinister. "You're all too late. The truth is out there, waiting." But just as she raised the knife again, something extraordinary happened. A blinding light flooded the courtroom, illuminating every face in stark relief. The door behind the judge flew open with deafening force, and in strode a figure cloaked in white, radiating an otherworldly presence. "Stop!" the figure commanded, and the room fell silent. Everyone turned. "Who are you?" someone murmured, eyes wide with disbelief. The figure swept their hood back, revealing a woman with long, flowing hair and piercing blue eyes. "I am Sylvie," she said, her voice echoing like a bell. "And you've all been manipulated." Before anyone could respond, she raised her arms, and the atmosphere crackled with energy. A surge of light swept through the courtroom, briefly blinding everyone. When the light faded, the chaos transformed. Gustavo felt something strange wash over him. Memories flickered, scenes from a life he didn't recognize. He saw images of Laura, only she looked different, older, regal. and then it all washed away, leaving him gasping for breath, heart pounding. Lara swayed, her expression lost. What just happened? Sylvie stepped closer, her gaze penetrating. Lara, your true identity is more than you ever knew. Your mother, a queen, was not just a title, she was a leader. And your father, he is not who you think he is. The courtroom erupted in muttering, confusion swirling like a storm. Manuel scowled, trying to brush off the accusation. You're lying. She's just my daughter. But Sylvie's voice was unwavering. No, Manuel. You kept her from her destiny. They're coming for her because of her birthright. And they want to finish what they started long ago. Gustavo's stomach dropped. The weight of the words hung heavy in the air. The whispers of the crowd turned to gasps as they all tried to process the unfolding drama. Lara, listen to me, he urged, moving closer. If what she says is true, we have to figure it out together. Lara's eyes searched his, confusion giving way to a spark of fierce determination. I don't care about a throne. What I care about is the truth. Suddenly, the lights flickered and then went out entirely. Screams cut through the darkness. In that moment of disarray, a low, menacing laugh broke through, echoing ominously. It's too late. The darkness deepened, an embodiment of despair filling the room. People stumbled, and Gustavo felt Lara slip away beside him. Lara, he yelled, panic rising in his chest. He reached out, but felt only the cold emptiness surrounding him. Then a flash of light returned. But now it came from a single figure, a man cloaked in shadows, as dark as secrets. You think you can save her? Not when the truth binds us all in chains. Before many could react, he lunged forward, and in a split second, silence engulfed the courtroom. Hearts stopped. Gustavo felt an icy grip around his heart. Fear pierced through him. What had he stumbled into? Were they truly fighting a battle far beyond their comprehension? With a final, chilling laugh from the figure, the lights cut out again, shattering hope into darkness. The only thing Gustavo knew for certain was that everything had changed, and the questions spilling over left him reeling. What was the truth? Who could he trust? What if they were all tied to something far more sinister than they ever imagined? Gustavo's pulse raced, drowning out the chaos around him. The room felt like it was pulsing with fear, choking out hope as the darkness closed in. He turned to Lara, desperate to keep her close, to shield her from the storm swirling around them. But just as the fear gripped him, something jolted through the air. A tremor of recognition. The shadowy figure started to move, and in a heartbeat, everything changed. The woman with the knife lunged forward, but instead of chaos, she threw a small device onto the floor. But deafening explosion followed, filling the air with a blinding flash. Flames ignited. Gustavo blinked against the light, instinctively shielding Lara. The moment felt like it stretched into eternity. And then came the wave of sound. The blast echoed like thunder, bouncing eerily off the courtroom walls. A horrified gasp swept through the crowd. In that moment of disarray, the world unraveled. When the smoke began to clear, Gustavo found himself on the floor, disoriented, coughing. Somewhere ahead, voices shouted, Panic had erupted. He pushed himself up, heart hammering as the haze lifted. Lara was gone. "Lara!" he yelled, voice cracking. Desperation clawed at his throat. He looked around, frantic. He could see Manuel kneeling, holding his side as he tried to push through the chaos. The once crowded room was a wreckage of fallen chairs and scattered papers. But all he could think about was Lara. A figure stumbled back towards him. It was the woman. She stood there, face grimed with ash. But when she turned, her eyes gleamed in a way that made every instinct in him scream to run. "I told you," she shouted, a wild laugh tumbling from her lips. "You're all just pawns!" And then she spoke Lara's name, as if they shared a secret. "You think you've all been fooled? You don't understand! Lara is the key! She's the vessel!" "Vessel?" he repeated, dread tightening like a vice around his chest. "What are you talking about? Where is she?" Before she could answer, a shift in the chaos caught his attention. A figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the dim light. It was a man, and as he approached, everything stopped. The air turned cold. "Stop right there!" the man yelled, voice booming. Eyes widened. It was one of the lawyers, a figure from the courtroom, but one he didn't expect. The truth settled like ice in his veins as recognition dawned. It was the same man who had sat across the table with Denise, the one who whispered secrets she'd kept hidden. "How could you?" Gustavo spat, disbelief crashing through him. "You knew all this time?" But the man merely smiled, a sinister curve that sent shivers down his spine. "You're all tangled in something larger than yourselves. I wanted to protect you, but you," he pointed at the woman, "you're too late. This is a game beyond your understanding." Gustavo's confusion deepened. The woman grinned wider, her voice like a caustic whisper. "And you think you can run from it? They're coming for Lara. And when they do, it'll be just the beginning." Just then, slices of light broke through more shadowy figures at the courtroom entrance. Guards, their faces obscured, marched in determined rows, weapons drawn. The room went still, charged with electric fear. Suddenly, the air felt alive with danger. Everything spiraled back into chaos. And through the madness, Gustavo felt it, the weight of the world. "Lara!" he shouted, pleading, but the sound was drowned out in the panic. The woman's laughter echoed, and his heart thudded in time with the dread. He could feel that everything was unraveling, the truth distorted and twisted. What had Lara become? And as the rush of chaos surrounded him, he could only cling to the slivers of hope. There had to be a way to find her, to uncover the deeper layers of this shadowy truth. As footsteps pounded closer, Gustavo knew this was just the beginning of a storm he had never anticipated. Would he find her in time? Or was the darkness already claiming them all? Chaos swirled around Gustavo like a storm, closing in as fear gripped him. He spotted a flicker of movement in the distance. It was the woman with the knife, her eyes gleaming with a manic glimmer. She looked like a predator, poised to strike. "Where's Lara?" he shouted, his voice cracking, desperation clawing at his throat. The shadows of the courtroom twisted, deepening with every second. The woman stepped back, surveying the pandemonium, then let out a laugh that echoed against the walls. "This is just the beginning." Her voice sliced through the noise, steeped in menace. Gustavo's heart thudded in his chest. Sirens blared outside, and chaos tangled around him like a web. He had to find Lara. She needed him. The gunmen, the secrets, they were all too much. He couldn't lose her. But then, out of the smoke, a different figure stepped forward. This time, it was a man, familiar but disheveled. His face was ashen, flecks of fear dancing in his eyes. It was Marcus, the outreach worker. "Gustavo," he shouted. "You have to listen. It's all connected." "Connected?" Gustavo shot back, frustration boiling. "What do you mean? Where's Lara?" Marcus raised a trembling hand, pleading for calm. "You don't understand. The court case, it's part of something bigger. Lara, she's a target, not just by chance. They've been watching her since she was a child." "What are you talking about?" "There was too much. Too many lies. Your sister Denise, she knows. She's part of this." The words hit like a freight train. Everything around him began to blur, the faces of bystanders fading into shadow. "Denise!" The betrayal hung thick, twisting his insides. He had trusted her. Before he could process it, a scream shattered the air. People turned, and chaos reigned. A flash of glass caught his attention. A woman tumbled through the shattered door, her face streaked with fear and tears. Gustavo froze. It was Denise. "Gustavo!" she cried, desperation etched across her features. "You have to trust me!" "They're coming! We're in danger!" Then the room trembled. Suddenly, the woman with the knife pivoted in her direction, eyes fierce. "You should have stayed hidden!" Denise stumbled back, her face paling. "What do you want from us?" The question hung, thick with fear. "I want what's mine!" The woman howled, her rage spilling into the crowd. In that instant, a loud bang shook the room. A gunshot rang out, and time froze. Everyone gasped, eyes darting. Gustavo's heart hammered as he turned toward the sound. If this was the end... But as he spun back, shock coursed through him. The woman with the knife had been hit, not by law enforcement, but by a shadowy figure who appeared out of nowhere, as if from a movie. The crowd gasped collectively, shockwaves rippling through the audience. "Enough games!" the new figure shouted, stepping into the light. He was tall, imposing, with eyes like cold steel. And then came the bombshell. "Lara is my daughter!" Gasps filled the courtroom. Lara's reality shattered in that instant. The fragile threads of her identity unraveled, twisting beneath the weight of truth. "No!" Lara's voice was barely a whisper, a plea lost to the storm. "It can't be!" But the figure stepped closer, arms raised in surrender. "It's true. You were raised to be safe, but now they know you're alive. They'll come for you. You need to trust me." Gustavo's mind reeled. Everything he thought he knew flipped upside down. Who was her father? What did this mean for Lara? And what about Marcus? Denise? Were these people all players in a dangerous game he couldn't comprehend? "Stand back," an officer shouted, struggling to maintain control as the room swelled with gasps and whispers. "Lara, please," the man continued, voice breaking. "You must believe me. Your life depends on it." The world spun, a whirlwind of uncertainty. Tension hung heavy, each heartbeat resonating like a drum. Gustavo felt a tightness in his chest, and Lara's eyes, fearful yet determined, met his. What would happen now? Could they truly trust this stranger? In that moment, the past felt like a fragile thread waiting to snap. The question lingered heavy on the air. Was this the truth, or merely another deception hidden in plain sight? The silence that followed was deafening, leaving everyone suspended on the brink of revelation. The world seemed to halt, caught in the tension that wrapped itself around them like a suffocating blanket. Lara's father stepped forward, his vulnerability laid bare, his voice steady but urgent. "You have to trust me," he pleaded again, desperation lacing his words. Gustavo felt the weight of the moment crush around him. Could this man really be who he claimed? The thoughts whirled as the crowd held its breath. Then the woman with the knife exploded into laughter, breaking the fragile silence like a glass shattering on the floor. "You think you're safe? You have no idea what's coming," she declared, eyes gleaming with a manic fire. But just as she spoke, a low rumble echoed from outside, shaking the very ground they stood on. Suddenly, the walls trembled, and everything felt like it was swaying. The room went into a frenzy, panic rippling through the crowd. Then, without warning, the ceiling cracked open with a deafening roar, showers of dust and debris raining down like confetti at a disastrous parade. "No! Get down!" a voice bellowed, and bodies dove, chaos erupting again. But through it all, Lara stood frozen, her gaze locked onto her father's. "What's happening?" she shouted, voice cracking, fear bubbling just below the surface. In the midst of falling dust, time seemed to stretch thin. The tall figure, the man claiming to be her father, stretched out a hand. "Lara, listen!" That's when it happened. A blinding light burst from the cracks in the walls, illuminating the courtroom with a fierce intensity. The woman with the knife shielded her eyes, backing away in awe. No, it can't be. And just like that, everything twisted. The light engulfed the room, a surge of energy pulsing like a supernova, ready to explode. Gustavo felt a pull, a magnetic force drawing him toward the center as the light swirled higher, looming over them with a power that washed through him, igniting an unfamiliar warmth in his chest. "Lara!" he cried, but his voice felt distant, like echoes in a vast, empty space. Then, with a shattering clarity, the light coalesced into a figure, an ethereal presence radiating with intensity. But as it took form, a gasp rippled through the room. It was a woman. Her features strikingly familiar, yet distant, a mirror to Lara's own visage, but older, regal. "Mother?" Lara whispered, her voice trembling not with fear, but with something deeper, an unshakable connection. She took a step forward, heart racing, hope and confusion battling in her eyes. "Yes, my child," the apparition said, her voice a soothing melody amidst the turmoil. "The truth is more profound than you can imagine. You were never meant to live in shadows." Hidden gasps filled the courtroom. The crowd shifted, uncertainty cascading like waves. But then came the woman with the knife, her features morphing into fury. "You think you can just come back? You don't control this." In an instant, she lunged, and the surreal moment shattered, plunging the room back into chaos. The ethereal light flickered, and in a horrified moment, tension burst as a loud bang echoed, rattling everyone's bones. The knife struck deep, but it wasn't aimed at Laura. It pierced her father's side, crimson blossoming against his shirt. "Dad!" Laura screamed, ice coursing through her veins. Gustavo rushed forward, adrenaline propelling him, heart pounding. But the apparition, the mother, burst into sparkles of light, fading as if it had never been there. Chaos consumed them again. Was this what they'd been waiting for? The veil had lifted. Secrets had broken loose, like angry water, flooding the courtroom with devastation. Who was really pulling the strings here? The room was alive with panic and pain, a kaleidoscope of horror. And amidst it all, the truth hung heavy, threatening to swallow them whole. As Gustavo knelt beside Laura, grasping her shaking hand, the walls echoed the question that lingered in the air. Was this reality, or a cruel twist of fate? The storm was only just beginning. Gustavo knelt beside Laura, the sharp scent of blood mixing with the dust that hung heavy in the air. Her father was crumpled on the floor, eyes wide, disbelief mingling with pain. He reached for Laura, but his face twisted as he realized the gravity of what had just happened. The courtroom was alive with gasps and murmurs, the weight of the moment crushing everyone beneath it. Dad! Her world was collapsing in front of her, the limits of her reality shattering. "Stay with me!" Tears streamed down Lara's cheeks, each drop heavy with fear and confusion. But as Manuel's breathing slowed, another voice cut through the chaos. "You're all in danger!" It was Marcus again, urgency in his tone. "The truth is far darker than you know." Gustavo felt a prickling sense of dread crawl along his spine. "What do you mean?" he shouted over the fray, desperate for answers. "What truth?" But before Marcus could respond, a sudden, booming voice echoed from the far end of the courtroom. "Enough!" The crowd hushed, all eyes turning to a man who pushed through the chaos, his presence commanding. It was a figure clad in a thick black coat, his face half obscured by shadows. A chill ran through the air. "You thought you could hide, but I've found you," he declared, voice resonating like a funeral bell. Lara froze, recognition flashing across her face. "You!" "Yes, Lara," the man continued, stepping closer. "It's time to wake up. Your mother was not just a queen. She was a part of something much larger. And you are the key to everything." The crowd gasped, shock rippling through them like electric shockwaves. "What are you talking about?" Gustavo yelled, but the man's eyes were locked onto Lara, intent and piercing. "You are a descendant of the ancient line, the ones they have hunted for centuries. Your life, your struggles, are part of a prophecy." He paused for impact, scanning the stunned faces. "And they've been manipulating you all along." "What? Prophecy?" Lara's voice trembled and shook. "I don't understand." Before the man could elaborate, a loud crash reverberated from the entrance. The doors burst open, and dozens of armed agents flooded in, tactical gear glinting menacingly. The atmosphere snapped with tension, the room swelling with confusion and fear. "Everyone stay calm," an officer yelled, panic-laden. But the shout fell flat against the nearing storm. The room exploded into uproar, people shoving and screaming, chaos reigning again. "Time to go," the man in black shouted, drawing everyone's eyes back. "They've come for her!" Suddenly, Sandwiched in the swell of bodies, a shot rang out. Flesh against flesh, the sound was unmistakable. A body hitting the ground. Laura turned just in time to catch sight of Marcus collapsing. "Marcus!" she screamed, horror crashing over her, swarming like dark clouds about to break. But as she dashed to his side, something staggeringly wild happened. Marcus blinked, and just like that, transformed. His form shimmered, flickering like a flame before bursting into vibrant light. The room gasped as the figure shifted into something otherworldly, something that transcended what a human could be. Now, instead of blood and pain, the aura around him radiated power. "I had to protect you, Laura," he said, voice rich and resonant, now completely void of fear. This was the only way. Shock washed over the crowd. The air crackled. The courtroom buzzed with disbelief. Just then, the man in black grinned, a twisted satisfaction dancing in his eyes. "Bravo! You're finally free," he said, voice smooth as silk. "But do you think they'll let you keep her now?" Gustavo's heart plummeted as the truth unfolded before him. A web of betrayal and manipulation formed right before their eyes. Suddenly, Laura's reality was irrevocably changed. Marcus had been a guardian, not just an outreach worker. The truth was darker than any fairy tale, deeper than the lies spun at every turn. "Laura, this isn't over," the man in black warned, taking a step closer. "They are coming for the crown, and with it, your life." And as confusion swirled, the pieces clicked into place, leaving them all with one question lingering in the air. Who was truly pulling the strings, and could they survive the storm that was about to sweep through their lives? Laura knelt beside her father's crumpled body, disbelief washing over her like a cold tide. The chaos of the courtroom swirled. Gustavo felt panic surge in his chest. "We have to get him help," he shouted, fear tightening his throat. But the man in black stood his ground, a predator waiting for the right moment. "They've come too far. Your father is only a distraction." No. Why was he doing this? Laura looked up, her eyes blazing with fury. "You think I'll just let you take him from me?" "Sometimes you have to burn the past to rise anew." His cold gaze swept over the crowd. Gustavo felt the heat of rage ignite within him. "You're wrong!" He lunged forward. The room felt electric with tension as bodies shifted, murmurs rippling through the throng. "Stop!" cried Marcus, his shimmering form now solid as he shielded Lara from the man. "She needs to know the truth." "Truth?" the man in black scoffed. "What good is truth in a world that thrives on lies?" In that moment, a low rumble echoed. The lights flickered before plunging them back into darkness. Chaos erupting anew. The urgency of the moment wrapped around them, clenching tighter with every heartbeat. "Lara," Gustavo heard her father's voice, weak yet insistent, pushing through the panic. "You need to leave. Find the others." Her eyes widened, panic spiraling like a tornado. "What others?" "Your mother wasn't the only one," he gasped, blood seeping into the floor. "There's more, deeper than they realize." A flicker flashed through the air, illuminating the figures huddled in the shadows. And in that heartbeat, Lara caught a glimpse of their legacy. A hint that there was strength in numbers. But the man in black stepped forward, fury etched across his face. You think they will help you? You're marked for destruction. A figure broke through the haze. It was Denise, gasping for breath, eyes ablaze with anger. This is your chance. Don't squander it. Gustavo blinked, caught between disbelief and relief. You came? Why? Because I know the stakes, and I'll be damned if we lose this fight. For the first time, Lara smiled amid the chaos, strength flickering within her. Together? Together, Denise confirmed, reaching for her sister's hand. But the man in black lifted his hand, fury igniting in his eyes. You can't possibly think they'll allow this, he shouted. But his voice faltered as the crowd surged forward with a powerful roar. And just like that, the tide of the room shifted. News cameras swarmed, capturing the chaos, the emotions, the urgency. They were all trapped in this moment, and the world was watching. Lara, let's go, Gustavo shouted, reaching for her. In that moment, hope flared like a distant star in the darkness. As they made their move, the man lunged, but the crowd pushed back. Shields raised together. It was both frenzy and unity, power thrumming through every heart present. With each step, they moved closer to the door, adrenaline pumping, lungs burning. We're breaking through, Gustavo urged, hand gripping Lara's tightly. When they finally burst from the courtroom, freedom greeted them with fresh air. But then, panic laced their resolve as they spotted a dark van idling outside. They're coming! The urgency pulsed through them. Into the car, Denise yelled, directing everyone toward safety. As they piled in, the stakes hung heavy in the air, a web of secrets, betrayals, and new beginnings. They peered down at the streets, where shadows lingered, where answers lay waiting in the dark. In the distance, sirens wailed, a harbinger of the storm yet to come. They were facing a future unformed, but together, could they uncover what was hidden? Would they be strong enough to claim the legacy that was rightfully theirs? The road faded behind them, but the journey had only begun. Before you go, listen! You must subscribe to the channel now. Don't miss out on exclusive stories that are coming your way. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about this wild finale. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how this story ends. Let's keep this amazing community growing. Don't wait 1 second longer to share it. Your voice makes all the difference.